Hi, in this recording I'll show you how to work with javafx slider and hbox layout. Let's create a new project. New. Search for javafx. Select javafx project. Next. Provide a name for your project. This is going to be javafx slider and hbox. And finish. Okay, so the project is created, and I have my main class, the starting point of our application, and I also need a fxml document, new fxml document, and the name is going to be slider hbox. Finish. And I will also create a controller right away. New class. Slider controller. Finish. Alright, so let's create the view first. Let's open the fxml document in Scene Builder. Okay, here we go. So first of all, maybe I want to make this box. I want to put hbox into my anchor pane, just like so. And I want to make this much bigger. Maybe about this size is okay. So now I want to create, what I want to create is something like this. So let's say this is our window. I want some kind of separator line here to split the view in two. And then here I will have one slider here, like so, and then I will have another slider like this, and I will also have a button somewhere. Where do I want the button? Maybe here. A button, and the view that will display the values from the slider, and also it will do the calculation and display the sum. So this will represent some number that user can enter. So let's call it number 1, and this will represent number 2 that user can enter. As user slides the the control back and forward, the number here will be modified. We will have a listener that the number will change all the time whenever user slides the little control. Okay, and here in the text box will display the values that finally that user selects some values. We'll display them here, and we will also display a sum. Okay, something like this. So this will happen only if user clicks display info button. Okay, so this is going to be our design. Let's go back to Scene Builder. So now in the hbox, I want to grab a slider. Where's the slider? So I want horizontal slider. Then I want vertical slider. Then I want a vertical separator. Remember we talked about separating the screen. And then I want a button. Where's the button? Okay, here's the button. And I want a text view. Image view, label, text area. That's what I want. Okay, I think this is enough. So now with the hbox, you can see everything is just going right next to each other. So I want to fix that a little bit. So number one, what I want to do is I want this button to be above the text area. So what I would like to do then, if I right click on the button and I say wrap in, and I want it to be stacked vertically, so I will actually select vbox. So it's a vbox inside the hbox. You can see that. So now the button is inside the vbox, but the text area is not. So I need to move the text area inside the vbox right here. So now you can see that the two elements are inside, and the view also looks already exactly how I want it to look. So with the sliders, I'm going to do something similar. I think I'll just do the same thing. Wrap in vbox, and it also puts it for me in the center, and I'll do the same with the other one, but it will be wrapped in another vbox like so. And now I want to play around with the design a little bit more with the layout. So this one is kind of okay, except for I would like to make a little bit of a gap here and a little bit of bigger gap on this side. So I'll go to layout, and here I want a gap from the left side, maybe 15, and from the right side, let's make it, actually let's make it 5, like so. I think this looks good. Now with the next one, with this one, I want to modify the vbox. It's very narrow right now. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to say minimum width. I use preferred size. And for the preferred size, I will say 150 perhaps. So you can see it became much bigger now. I think this is good. I'm not going to modify anything else here. Actually, what I want to do, I want to add a label. Remember we said we will display the numbers as user moves the slider. We want to change the numbers so user knows what he selected. So I'll add the label here, and I'll add another label here. So both labels jumped to the bottom of the screen, but I actually wanted to go to the top. So I'll drag and drop it. Okay, this is much better now. Now for this, what would I like to do with this? So here I see the separator line right there. So I want to add a little bit of a gap between the separator line and the screen. So this is on the left side. Let me put 15 and take a look. It looks better, but I want to add a little bit of a bigger gap, 25. Okay, this is better, but I see my my text box is moving, but my button is not moving. So I'm gonna play around with the layout a little bit. I'll make this one exactly the same size here, except I want a little bit of a gap here. Okay, now this one has left 25. I'll just do the same with the bottom, maybe. Let's take a look. Okay, that centered it. So the view looks okay. It's just about what I wanted it to look like. So for properties, I will change the text on the bottom. We said we want to say display information, like so. And that's it here. As usual, first you have to save the file before you go back to Eclipse. In Eclipse, you have to refresh the project first. So like this. And actually I forgot to attach the controller to my slider box. So I will go back and select anchor pane and go to code, and here controller class, I'll add the controller and save. So it's saved. We'll go back, we'll take a look. Now I see the controller is attached to my fxml file. Now I want to add some listeners on my sliders and so on. So I have two sliders at fxml private slider number 1 slider, and I need to import things and so on. Actually, I have some code prepared that I can just copy paste. I'll grab this and so let me just import some things here. Import the correct label, import the correct text area, don't select AWT, and save. So I have two sliders, I have two labels, and I have text area and a button. So for the button, I'll have event handler, action handler, let's see, public void handle button action, and do something like that. But I also have that code available for me right here. Actually, I called it calculate two numbers. So let me keep the same name that I have here that I already created. So like so, and I want to take the annotation, plug it in here. So what this is going to do, it will in the text area, it will set the text, and I'm using string format. It will say number 2 is equal something, number 1 is equal certain value that user selects, and then sum. And each placeholder is corresponding to the slider things themselves here, and also the calculation, the two values that we get, and we sum them up. All right, so now in initialize though, I want to put some listeners. I want to attach listeners to the sliders, so I can listen to whatever user is doing with the slider. So in the initialize method, I want a couple of things to happen. Okay, so here for the slider, I'm adding listener for slider 1 and for slider 2. Let me import the missing pieces. And again, be careful, don't import swing things into your application unless that's what you want. And save. Now this is good. So this is going to listen for the changes in the slider. So it's a change listener. If something changes, then it will modify the text on the label. Label 1 set text number 1, and it will read the value that user selects by sliding that little circle. And the same thing is going to happen for slider 2. What I'm also doing here is initially when the window loads, I want the label to display certain value, the current value of the slider. So now my code is finished. I'll save it, and now I need to tie all these elements to fxml file. So I'll go back to my scene builder, and now that I have the controller, I just need to select the correct IDs, FX IDs for all of the elements. So my first label is FX ID going to be something like label 1, label number 1. The second label is going to be label number 2. The slider 1 is going to be number 1 slider and number 2 slider. For the button, we want on action. We want it to call handle button action method. And for the text area, I have one last thing left, is two numbers display. All right, now that I modified all of this code, I'll hit save. And I think it's time to try our application. When I come back, I have to hit refresh as usual. Otherwise, sometimes it doesn't get reflected. All the changes that you've made do not reflect in the clips. So, and you can see that's what I'm getting here. But the reason is because I did not modify my main class. So I have to remove this CSS. I don't need that. I don't need this. I don't need any sizes that are defined here. But what I do need is to create a parent element and load fxml file. So slider hbox. Okay, that looks right. I just need to import necessary things here, like fxml loader. All right, and let's run it again. All right, so you can see the initial value is 0 right now. And I can slide the slider and the value changes. So here it's going from 0 to 100, from 0 to 100. And I said when I click, let me choose some simple numbers, display information. Number 2 is 70, that's correct. Number 1 is 13, that's correct. Sum is 83, that's correct. If I modify here, this value is modified, but this doesn't change until I press the button. Okay, that's the exact behavior that I want. But let me show you a couple of more things with the slider that we can set up in Scene Builder. Let's go back to Scene Builder, select the slider 1, go to Properties, and here I want to modify the maximum number. Maximum number is going to be, let's say 50 for me. Minimum is 0. And the value, like the starting point, where do I want it to be when user just starts using the application? I want it to be 25. And you can see the circle jumped to the middle. So I will modify it here as well. I'll say, I don't know, 70, but the starting point, maybe for some reason, I want 10. All right, you can see this also jumped. So I'll save the file, and then I will go back, hit F5 to refresh the project, and then run. I see my changes did not reflect even though I hit F5. So I see the changes here now, so maybe F5 did not help me this time. Okay, let's run it again. Now I see the changes are here. Number 1 is 25, number 2 is 10, the starting point, and then I can modify it. But you can see this time I can go only up to 70 here and only up to 50 here. That's the maximum. All right, this is how we can work with the sliders and listeners as well. So there are different types of listeners, and you can attach them not only to sliders, you can add listeners to many different controls. Okay, I can't seem to get my menu for the video recording. Wow, this is not going anywhere.